Da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Welcome to Alternative Improvised Radio, or AIR. I'm your host, Don Kleppen, here with you once again, and joining me this week is Joseph Room. How's it going?
How are you, Don?
I'm doing so good. Joe, I like the facial hair growth there.
Oh, thank you, my friend.
Looking good.
Trying something new.
On Joe's right, we have Patrick Perez. How's it going, buddy?
Going pretty well. How you doing?
I'm doing so well. Good to see you again.
It's very nice to see you as well.
Yes, I hope your holidays are going well so far.
They're going.
I got you. Cool. Yeah. All right, sounds good. You guys ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Cool. We got some topics picked out. We're going to rifle through these, starting together right now. Gotta love that. Get you juiced, get you jacked up. Star Wars.
Me and Pat, of course, we talked about this a little bit before. We have seen The Force Awakens. It is the 7th movie in the series.
Oh, boy.
And no spoilers, of course, because
don't you
Don,
dare.
you have not seen it, and I don't feel like getting beaten up by you tonight. It's just not
That would
something
happen.
on my it's
That
not
would
on my
so
it's not
happen.
on my agenda.
Yeah.
Just saying. But I do want to say that having gone into this movie, I feel like all the expectations that I had set were either met or exceeded.
Which to me is so insane, and I've heard that from more than just you, Joe, but I think it's so great because today everything is so overhyped, and I don't think anything has been nearly as hyped up as Star Wars has over the past year. Disney's pulled out all the stops advertising this thing, and so for this movie to come out and just meet all those expectations and blow some away, I got to go see this thing. I mean, I can't wait.
Everyone's probably going to see it at some point.
When are you going to see it?
I was going to go tonight, but most of the theaters that I looked at for showtimes were still sold out around the city anyway.
Okay.
So I was thinking possibly tomorrow off when I'm off work, or Monday, matinee. It's going to be in the next couple days for sure. But I've been trying to avoid spoilers like the plague. I haven't logged into any social media. I've tried to avoid catching some TV news broadcasts. I don't want to hear anything.
Yeah.
So shut up about it. God damn it. No, I'm just kidding.
On the topic of the look and feel of it, being a very meeting expectations, it's a refreshing change from the prequels that came out. It's a very, very different approach, being that they utilized actual props and used them in balance with CGI. I have not spoiled anything. That's something that's been known since production. So they've used a lot more props like they did in the original films, as opposed to the prequels, which were progressively more CGI heavy. I think Episode 3 had something like 70% of the shots had CGI versus The Phantom Menace, which only had 35-40% of the shots with CGI. So they progressively got more and more CGI heavy over the time, which all in all, because that process was so new, it's since gotten better, but that process of shooting in a green screen was so new to films in general. That's probably why those films felt so mechanical and so robotic, because they aren't able to emote that well when acting with invisible characters. That is a skill of itself that took time from then to develop. So although George Lucas was being innovative again with those films, his overall passion for making movies was less enthusiastic as the struggle was when he was making the original Star Wars. His belly was full, so to speak. He wasn't focusing, I think, as much on the story, but as more on the new technology that was coming out.
And to kind of add on to that, I would put forth the argument that this Force Awakens, the 7th film, does just a good job as a sequel as well as a standalone film. I do believe that if you knew nothing about Star Wars and you walked in and watched this film, it would be a complete film for you. There's no real assumptions that need to be made. There's no real prior knowledge that you have to have going into this, because anything that even if it's a repetition or an introduced character from before, it's still fresh enough and still a new enough spin on the concepts that Lucas has already presented. J.J. Abrams has done such a good job, him and his writers, of making it its own film that can stand on its own legs. It doesn't need to rely on a previous backstory to be completely fleshed out, have compelling characters, have compelling struggles and emotions and drama. And I feel like that was something that was indeed lacking in the prequels, because it was so reliant on setting up these characters that already exist rather than expanding on these characters that exist. Obviously, the whole 1, 2, and 3, Phantom Menace, Rise of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, it was very much kind of focused around the transformation of Anakin Skywalker into Darth Vader, the transformation of the Galactic Republic succumbing and becoming the Empire. I think Queen Amidala Padme, she goes, and this is how democracy dies. And it's so centered on ideas that we've already come to know from New Hope, Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. But the great thing about The Force Awakens is that it doesn't need that to be its own film.
Interesting. And it's going in an entirely new direction. I think that's the exciting thing about it, and the difference anyway between this and the prequels has to be that the prequels are all as good as prequels can ever be, where what happens after the ending, or sort of where they end up, at least the characters anyway. And that's kind of, I think, always the thing with prequels, is you're always going to know where they end. With this, Episode 7 now, this for the first time in 30 years, it's like Star Wars fans have a new direction to look into, and I think that's got to be exciting at least. But it's refreshing to hear that I can take someone who hasn't seen the old movies maybe, and you're saying that they'll be able to enjoy Episode 7 just as much as if they had seen the older stuff?
Absolutely. I 100% stand by that. He's one of the on TV radio hosts. I can't remember his name. One of his assistants is known as McLovin. You may know who this is. Long story short, he had Richard Roper, of course, the acclaimed Richard Roper, film critic. I believe you may even know him.
I do, yeah.
He was on, and he echoed similar things, that while he's not a big Star Wars fan, he was still able to appreciate The Force Awakens as its own embodiment, as its own film. It's not really reliant on anything else.
That's fantastic to hear. Yeah, because I just, as much as Star Wars fans have been looking forward to it, you had to know that Disney as a whole, with as much as they were putting into it, that they wouldn't want to cut out any portion of audience people. So I think they must have been interested in trying to keep it as inclusive as possible. You don't want to cut anybody out with all kinds of references to stuff that happened in previous movies. But to your point earlier, Pat, about the CGI versus the costumes and the props, I have heard that from many other people as well, that this is much more of a return to the older style, or from the first 3 movies, that being A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. That those used much more costumes and props, obviously because CGI wasn't, what capabilities were around back then were not as good anyway. Versus the prequels, which used heavy CGI. From what I've heard about this movie, it's much more of a return to models, to costumes, and now you have the Disney resources for those models and costumes. Lucasfilm stuff was good anyway, but put Disney's money behind that as well as the CGI stuff. And I just feel like that is what CGI there must have been much improved from the prequel movies, I would imagine, as well. Would you say that's accurate? The CGI being improved?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would say that we reached a point, the technology reached a point where it was like flexing its muscles, where it was like, what can it do? It was growing. And then we reached this almost plateau of, okay, the CGI looks pretty photoreal, but it's still, in a way, it's still recognizable as opposed, you can't beat actual practical effects, the realism of staring at an actual creature, an animatronic creature, or staring at an actual TIE fighter, which they used, and they used actual TIE fighters. They used actual, just like the old movies where they used the actual thing. And you can't beat acting with a real thing. You can't beat it acting, and even on the camera, a real thing looks
right.
real.
Yep.
CGI as photoreal as it is, has its place in certain parts of a movie, and realism has its place in other parts of a movie. And this film uses it very appropriately, such as A New Hope used it very appropriately. It was obviously very heavy in practical effects, but they still used light and magic, industrial light and magic. They still used the special effects where they needed to for their purposes as well. In a more broad sense, if you look at what's interesting is as critiqued as the prequels are, they still fit into the lineage of the whole thing, because if you take the three of them, even as CGI sort of monstrosities as they might be from a character perspective, they still fit in the lineage with the acting choices and because the way Hayden Christensen plays this whiny Anakin, Luke is also this whiny kind of bratty kid in A New Hope. So Hayden Christensen's acting, as weirdly as it was received, was still a deliberate choice, I believe, or could be looked at as a deliberate choice. And the movies themselves could still be looked at to fit that era of time in that universe. Before then the war really kicked in after Revenge of the Sith, Darth Vader was created, and then everything was kind of crumbled from there into the look of realism that followed the next three, and then now 7, 8, and 9. So as much as they were weird from a timing standpoint, as us, the viewers, kind of seeing them out of order, as weird as that felt, it almost seems as though that fits the lineage of the universe in a sense, even still, because of when it was released.
It'll be interesting to, when these, 7s come out now, when episode 8 and 9 eventually come out, it'll be interesting to go through and watch episodes 1 through 9 in order and be able to kind of evaluate the story that way. It'll definitely be cool.
I still have not done 1 through 6 in that order.
Right.
It's always been just out of order whenever they're on.
I did 1 through 5 recently. I was at a party where we screened 1 through 4, and then I went home, and the next day I watched 5 of my own accord, and I just didn't do Return of the Jedi. But I think I've probably seen that one the most of all the Star Wars anyway. So it doesn't really need a refresher. That Ewok party scene at the end is constantly going off in my head anyway.
But I was going to the Toshi station to make up some power converters.
Is that Luke?
That is Luke.
So whiny.
Yeah.
So whiny. A lot of good that does me here. But one final note I will say is that, so basically we're all saying that everyone should go see Star Wars Episode 7. It's amazing. Need to see it. Whether you've seen the movies or not, it's a good movie. Worth watching, yes?
Yes.
Definitely.
Cool. And I think that's obviously confirmed because it's currently on pace to shatter all box office records ever set by anything.
Records, yes.
Yeah, I think they said opening night over worldwide it pulled in something like 120 or 130 million, and it just it's obscene. The future. It's here. Am I right?
2016's right around the corner, guys. We are in the twilight days of 2015.
You gotta come back with me.
Okay.
I don't know how, but they found me. Run for it, Marty. What were they? The Libyans?
The Libyans?
Yeah, the Libyans.
Who?
Oh boy. Back to the Future, of course, we're referring to. Doc Brown. Those movies are hilarious. And again, I know we've mentioned this before, but it's crazy. Back to the Future Part 2, as far forward as they went, was October 2015, and we've already passed that point.
Yes, we are. We are now ahead of Back to the Future,
right?
Which is
this sort of pop culture moment that we had been looking forward to for the last 30 years has now come and gone, and we're in this weird ether where no one has put the what's the word has even fictionally depicted some kind of image of what it might look like.
Well, Star Trek.
Well,
of course.
I do feel that Michael J. Fox and I can't remember his name.
Christopher Lloyd.
Thank you, Christopher Lloyd. I was going to say Christopher Nolan, but he's definitely not.
Different.
Yeah, I know him as Doc Brown better. I feel like both him and Michael J. Fox should reprise their roles and make another Back to the Future and predict some outlandish, crazy stuff to happen in 2030, They
did. I would love that. They did actually do a short that was teased, and they attached it to the 30-year anniversary edition of the Blu-ray released this year of Back to the Future, all 3 movies. I don't know how long the actual short is, but the trailer that was released is like a 15-second teaser, and it's just Doc Brown, like, you know, getting out of this recently appeared DeLorean that's like smoking and stuff, and he just gets out and looks around, and it shows you that it's like, you know, Back to the Future, and that it's a new short with both of them, but you can only see it by getting the Blu-ray of Back to the Future and stuff. That's how they get you. I tell you.
They could create like an alternate timeline. They could be like, if they were to go to 2030, for instance, they could be like, why does everything look so different? Where are the flying cars? Well, when we inadvertently created blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
Biff kind of snuck in, Biff, you know, hid in the trunk, and, you know, him, you know, he gambled a little bit too hard on this horse, and suddenly he created this alternate timeline by
Right.
dry humping the president, and that scarred the entire country.
Biff started fracking, and he just never really stopped. And now we're
here.
Now
God
we're all
damn
screwed.
it, Biff.
Now we're all screwed. But yeah, no, future. It's just a weird. I mean, it's concept,
Yeah,
but it's just interesting to think that it's never quite here, is it? Like you say at the beginning of this, it's like, oh God, the future's here, but it's never here. You know, here is now. This is the present.
yes.
The future's always like just ahead. So it's really more kind of like this carrot dangling in front of you to just keep you from ending it every day. Am I right?
Pretty
Am I
much.
right? No, just kidding. But, well, so go ahead. Pretty morbid. No one stepped in and corrected me.
I was trying to,
I
but
was
you were just,
winding up to it.
Interrupt you. That's rude. We're not gonna be rude to you just because we don't know where you're going with your points. I mean, you're the one that took the weird turn.
I do. Yeah, you guys. What's he gonna say? What's he doing that? And I'm over
This
here
is
ramping
this
up
is
to
getting weird.
suicide.
This is getting weird.
Let me kind of
Please.
counterclock your morbidity and
Please
say
do.
the cool thing for me about the future is that it is a undetermined land, undetermined place, undetermined location
Tabula rasa.
of infinite potential. It's limitless. To really put the future in any kind of real terms, you can't, because it's such an abstract construct of just different possibilities that are endless. I mean, tomorrow you could grow wings and learn to fly. Not likely, but it's a potential.
No, it gives
of the
me something to
future.
hope for, dude.
Exactly, and so hopefully
Thanks for that.
won't end it tonight when you go home.
But if it doesn't happen, I'm gonna be really disappointed.
but that's the future for you.
The future is what truly separates us, the concept of the future, us from, I would say, other animals.
Yeah.
Because other animals, they develop certain skills in order to survive in the here and now, while we have both the survival skills, but we use the future to develop other skills as well that are not necessarily necessary at the moment.
It is it's being able to put oneself in a hypothetical situation. That's what the future is being able to mentally project yourself into this time that is not now. It's entirely constructed in the hypothetical. Animals can't do that. They can't, they're just absorbing information as of right now and they're reacting to it. They can't, they're not empathetic. They can't mentally place themselves in someone else's shoes or in another time period. So definitely that's one of our advantages for sure.
And just to kind of elaborate on that real quick, that's the beauty of being a human, is that we have the potential to change ourselves. If you are a lizard or you're a bird, that's all you're ever going to be. You're going to be a lizard or a bird from the day you're out of your egg or you're born till the day you die.
Tell that to Caitlyn Jenner.
As a human, you have the ability to change, and Caitlyn Jenner will tell that to you, my friend.
Yeah, that's right. Although I think there are some animals that can change their sex.
But I'm talking about changes in, like, let's say today you're a plumber, but 4 years from now you want to be an architect.
Got to go to school.
Exactly, but you have that ability to change.
True.
Whereas if you're a fish or whatever, you can change your sex. You're still going to be a fish.
You're never going to get any better.
Right. That's it. That is it.
Though, to any fish listening, we don't want you to stop striving. You can be whatever you want to be. Okay, don't dream big. Dream big.
Yeah, you could be the leader of your school. You could be the
class president.
Move to the front and steer the ship, so to speak. I think what you were saying did actually elaborate on what I was saying, because like you said, being an architect versus being a plumber is a form of planning for the future, acquiring a skill. To survive in the moment here and now, I don't need to be an architect. But to survive for a family for the next 40 years, being an architect would be very helpful.
Right. And it's one choice you might make in terms of, many potential directions to go in. But ultimately, you're saying, hey, I don't want tomorrow to be the same as today, so what can I do to change that outcome? And the direction of behavior you choose is to go to school, invest in yourself, and then improve upon your future. Weather. It's been crazy.
It really has. As far as Decembers that I can succinctly remember living my life here in Chicago, this has definitely been one of the weirdest, but also secretly one of the nicest Decembers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it has been balmy and tropical.
You can't beat that 1 or 2 days there when we hit like 70 degrees in December. It's definitely unheard of. I mean, to be able to walk around in like jeans and a t-shirt when you're a few weeks ahead of Christmas is an experience here in Chicago that I have never had.
Unlike anything else, yeah. And it's glorious, and I say that with an asterisk because obviously global warming is one of the reasons why this is possible, and one should never root for global warming, but let me tell you, it's nice that I haven't had to bust out the wool coats or the down jackets,
Right.
I don't have to get in my car and wait 5 minutes to warm up before I drive because it's freaking cold as shit out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it like you said, it's kind of, you're not exactly rooting for global warming, but on the other hand, you can't help but be like, when you enjoy a week like we just have, it's kind of like, hey, thanks for that one, climate change. Like that one's I'm not hoping you win, but there's a nice little pat on the back for the work you've been doing.
I like looking at the puffy clouds.
Yeah, me too. Cloud Appreciation Society.
Well done, Bob Ross. Are you going to paint me some happy little trees next?
I'm working on it, but my crayons are a little dull.
You should mix your oil paints and your watercolors. See how that goes.
I want to try and mix on the colors.
I have no idea what that was.
That sounds, that was some sort of a growl, like Bob Ross kind of. Yeah. Sort of lost the higher brain functions there, I think, for a moment.
Well, clouds are nice. You can see animals.
This is true.
See all kinds of stuff. Joe, you brought up an interesting point about climate change. Since mentioning that with the weather, it's pretty sweet that the almost 200 nations signed that Paris Climate Change Pact, agreeing to by 2050, by 2100, curb all greenhouse gas emissions below a certain percentage. It certainly signifies like the most unified effort to fight against climate change so far.
I think one of the biggest significant things, more so than the fact that we're coming together to preserve the only habitable planet that we currently as humans know, I think it's also very significant that this is the first time I feel that humanity as a whole has come together for a common cause. So often we are divided by ethnicity or race or nationality or whatever it may be.
Even political allegiances.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Whatever it may be. Humanity by nature has always been divided. It's always been an us versus them as far back as recorded history goes. And I think it's almost more significant. Yes, it's incredibly significant that we're finally advocating global climate, regulations and such, because the more greenhouse gas there is, the more disastrous things can happen to us, and deforestation and water drying up. Long story short, though, I think it's more significant that so many different nations from so many different walks of life came to the table and agreed on this. That is significant beyond just the impacts of what it makes for climate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's certainly encouraging to see leaders from so many different countries up there hand in hand signing the same pact and basically putting aside any squabbles that they're having. Guys like Putin and the French president Francois Hollande, and like just these people that are always in the news because they were disagreeing on things like the conflict in Syria and like energy crises and stuff like that. But they all put those things aside in order to agree that something needs to be done in order to sort of stop this descent that we're on. Inner child.
Speaking of,
I think we sort of just exposed ours. Yeah,
that was an absolutely delightful transition into this topic.
Pointed at you very
pretty
distinctly.
Nice. Yeah.
I am happily the forefront pioneer of the inner child spokesperson.
Sort of the inner poster child.
Oh,
Inner poster
that
child.
Did you just come up with that? That is good.
Thanks.
You should. You
Yeah.
should
Oh,
get
shit.
all of that. Is
Thanks.
good.
Why don't you come over here? Put your tongue out. I got some ball sack for you.
And the inner homosexual poster
Right,
child.
right.
The inner closet poster child.
Oh man! To kind of elaborate on that, because I 100% agree. I've known this gentleman to my right, Mr. Perez, for a long, long time, and it pleases me to know that as I and of course him grow older, our mentality seems to stay youthful. I would agree that my inner child certainly flourishes. I often say that even though I'm closely reaching the 3-0 in terms of an age, I mean
We all are.
Yeah,
all
we're
are
all right
exactly.
there.
Yeah, we're right on the cusp, guys. But you know what? I don't think I'll ever truly accept the fact that I'm an adult. I don't think there's ever going to be a point in my life where I give up
Yeah.
my childishness.
I was-
I like being immature and making sounds way too much.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I know. Jeez, I wonder the last day I went without making a fart noise with my mouth. Like they don't happen.
Yeah.
Those
Or-
days don't exist.
Or with my butt.
Yeah. Either way,
that too.
I am perfectly happy just blowing from both ends. But
Oh.
I age is the state of mind thing. When you're a kid, I can remember it's like when you're a teenager, you look at someone in their mid-20s or someone who's approaching 30, and you're like, that person in your mind is as old as a real adult, or like a 50-year-old or whatever. It doesn't really, you don't differentiate that way. And then all of a sudden you're in your 20s and you're like, like 30's, no, 30's not that old. 35, that's not that old. It's only when I'm like 50, 60 that I'm going to be like old for sure. But 50 or 60-year-olds, I know plenty of them that don't exactly feel old either.
Right.
They're
They're
still kind of the
just as
same way that
childish.
making the same jokes. I don't think I'm ever going to feel like an adult or like certainly not like an old man anyway.
Oh, I hope not. I hope not. I believe in my heart of hearts that, again, I will never truly accept 100% the mantle of being an adult. Yes, maybe the responsibilities of being an adult 100%, but I never want to be at a point where I can't look at a mirror, make a bunch of funny faces, or be sitting next to somebody on a in church and all of a sudden making a really obscene fart noise during somebody's wedding vows. You know what I mean?
Classic. I'm just laughing just thinking about that. Like it's just so
Like
so
I am
joyous.
excited to be at that Kleppen wedding, and you're about to say I do, and
I would expect nothing. I hope the whole church does it. Honestly, I hope everybody. I hope it's like I'm just gonna, the priest will say do you take this wife? And I'm just gonna and then I'm gonna look back at everyone and just yes, I'm gonna expect everyone to do that, and only then will I be able to go through with it. Just kind
Absolutely.
of take a deep breath and say, okay, yes, I do.
I do.
That's right. I love this woman.
absolutely,
Hopefully, yeah, that'd be nice.
that would be.
What if she joins in? What if she's the one making the fart?
Then,
She is
then
the
she
one.
is the
Do
one.
you take the woman and she's like,
God, that makes me so happy just to think about that. If I ever
That's
met a woman who
that's
did that,
amazing.
she would be too perfect.
heads down? You'd be like,
Too
I do
perfect.
times infinity.
Yeah, I do forever. No question. Christmas.
What a time of joy.
Yeah, perfect for inner children.
You know, it's an interesting month because I feel like December is really become Christmas. That's how society and capitalism has kind of engendered us. As soon as Thanksgiving is done and Black Friday starts and all that, it's Christmas until that 25th, and it's interesting. Because when I was younger, I used to observe Christmas, obviously, with a younger person's mindset. And, oh, my God, Santa's going to bring me presents or got to leave cookies out. And, obviously,
Yeah,
we're
I mean, that's the best
well
part.
beyond
Totally.
that point at this point. But it's still a great time of year because, there's so many wonderful things that happen during Christmas time. You get to hang out with a lot of family you generally don't get to see. You get to really get into, I suppose, the quote unquote spirit of Christmas, and you really every year, it may be a repetition of what you do every year. It may be a tradition, but it may change up vastly year to year to year. This year, I did not do Christmas with my family last year. I did it with my then girlfriend's family, and
Oh, okay.
it was very different to see how they did it. And now we're gonna do it, or I'm gonna do it now with my family this year, and it's gonna be interesting to see how it goes. Obviously the younger kids get older, the adults get older, I get older, and things change. And but it's still in a lot of ways it's still very enjoyable, I would say.
What do you guys typically do? How do you spend your Christmas Day?
We do Christmas Day celebrations. We're not a Christmas Eve bunch. We do it Christmas Day. We generally meet at somebody's house. It's actually at my parents' crib this year, so we're doing Christmas. They just went to Costco and got a brisket. It's like a
Nice.
10-pound brisket or whatever. It was ridiculous.
So you guys have the extended family come by?
Yeah,
and-
I think 23 to 26 people is the official head count, something like that. So not super extended just because of how my mom's side of the family works, but certainly everybody from the father's side and such come by. How about yourself? How does the Kleppen clan and company?
We do. It's been pretty much the same kind of routine on Christmas Day every year. We don't. My mom likes us to go to mass Christmas Eve, like 11 o'clock, 11:30 mass, and then we go home, go to sleep, and we're usually all up Christmas morning by like 7 or 7:30. One of my aunts, my mom's sister, comes by to visit super early in the morning because they like take off to Geneva or something afterwards. But they stick around, have some coffee, watch us open a few rounds of presents at first, and then we open all our presents under the tree, have breakfast. My mom makes this breakfast pizza, which is delicious. It's more like lasagna, but it's like several layers, cheese, sausage, mushrooms, all that good stuff. It's like a Christmas tradition, which is just it's one of my favorite parts of the day, actually. But then we go to my dad's house up in Gurnee and open some more presents there, and then from there we drive up to my grandma's in Milwaukee, where we spend the rest of the day in the evening with my dad's family, doing gift exchange, kind of eating a big meal. My grandma usually does like a ham, some roast beef kind of a thing. And that's usually where we, we'll wind up back at our mom's house usually, but I think this year I'm going to hang out by my grandma's because my cousin's in town from Buffalo. So just kind of good family time. What about you, Pat?
A mixture of gatherings. Christmas Eve, it's a smaller gathering. There's actually an extended family group that every other year hosts because they spend it with our family one year, and then the other year they spend it with her husband's family, which is a different group. So this year it's going to be a smaller gathering, and then for Christmas Day it's going to be a combination of seeing some friends and then a more smaller gathering. Do you have any young children visiting or in your family gatherings?
I have a couple. My cousin's daughter, I think she's 7 currently. I believe she turns 8 in May, and my brother's fiance's kid is 7 as well, and my other cousin's son, he's either 11 or 12. I lose track sometimes. I don't follow birthdays that much, but not a whole lot, but a couple.
A few, yeah.
It would only be my stepsister Nicole if she's coming in from California. She has 2 sons who are, I believe, 6 and 4, and they would be the youngest there.
If not them, then what's the next youngest age?
I think it's my brother Joey, and he's just in 8th grade.
Oh, so he's like 13, 14.
12,
Yeah.
13, 14.
That still qualifies as a kid in the eyes of like the other family, and once you hit beyond 18, up to 18, I would say is the cutoff point for being like the kid of the family.
Right.
We, for our family, I was the oldest of my group of cousins. My youngest cousin, he's in high school. He's 15. Besides the 3 of us in our generation, it's a pretty small group. We were always the kids of the family. So, and I don't have any children, so it's like
that you know of.
I was just gonna say that too.
My point is that the spirit of Christmas is, of course, getting with family. But I always remember it as a kid that the older family members would get very excited with kids. They really enjoy giving kids presents. And for my family gatherings, there's really just no kids present. I don't have kids. I'm the oldest of my cousins. Obviously, my younger cousins aren't going to have any kids. It's the youngest kid is 15. He's a young adult, basically.
Right.
So there isn't that
that element of the youthful joy sort of is kind of being, you're saying, it feels like it's a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, babies and children bring more people into the picture because the people just, they're always just so happy for no apparent reason. They just gravitate towards happiness. Other people want to be happy, so it brings more. Come and see the braver.
I will also say along that line, and this is kind of, I suppose, a little bit of a digression, but it's easier to buy gifts for kids because you can get, your cousin Timmy a $20 Lego set. You can
Free of judgment.
You can get cousin Susie a Barbie doll, but once you hit a certain age,
I didn't want this cell phone. I wanted the Flip 260. You suck, Mom.
It really becomes more about giving gift cards and money. That's kind of what I've been getting as gifts for a long time. Maybe 1 or 2 articles of clothing
Socks.
from my old man, because he knows my size and he's also a clothes horse and he enjoys clothes shopping.
He's a what?
Clothes horse.
Clothes horse?
I heard horse too. It's okay.
You've never heard the
horse
phrase
too.
clothes horse?
No. What's a clothes horse?
He has just tons and tons of clothes.
But why is it horse?
That's just the phrase.
But horses don't have clothes, nor do they hoard them or anything. Like,
This must be a new
beast
thing
of
that we're
burden.
just being exposed to now.
You
It's
guys
gotta be.
Really? No, it's a phrase that's been around forever. Clothes horse. Look it up. Come on, Mr. Google.
Mr. Google,
Don't you
look up this question we are having.
Don't you tell me how to live my life.
But anyways,
So he's a clothes horse.
He's a clothes horse.
More of
But
a Clydesdale or a pony, would you say?
I would definitely put him between like a Ridgeback stallion and maybe a wild bay. But
Is he purebred? Is he a purebred or a mutt?
Definitely not. He's a mutt. He's a
Okay,
mutt.
for sure.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
appreciate
my
that.
good sir. A clothes horse, sometimes called a clothes rack, drying horse, clothes maiden, drying rack, drying stand,
What?
is a frame upon which clothes are hung.
That makes
after
way more
washing.
sense. That makes way more
Indoors
sense.
or outdoors to dry by evaporation.
So your dad
The
is who
frame
you're
is
hanging your
usually
wet
made of
clothes
wood,
on.
metal, or
Guilty as
plastic.
charged.
So that's what happened.
Guilty as
So you just
charged.
throw clothes
Right.
at your dad and be like, Dad, hold this for about 18 hours. I'll pick it up tomorrow. If you move, it will not work.
If you get sick, I'm not taking you to the hospital, and I'm expecting that back on Christmas.
You better dress in layers because I washed with a cold cycle.
My dad is a clothes horse.
Clothes
That's,
horse, man.
that's just
He's
what he
a car.
is.
That's exactly what he is. Spot on. Spot on.
I just knew. I was like, there's no way.
Oh, wait. Used figuratively, the single word term clothes horse describes men and women who are so passionate about clothes that they maintain unusually large wardrobes of the latest, most stylish clothes, will never willingly appear in public in unstylish or outdated clothes, and will often change into many different stylish outfits during a single day.
Okay,
In
does
this
that describe your
context,
dad?
Yes, it does.
The term
Yes, it
is
does.
similar to fashion plate, which also originally referred to another item.
You're. Okay,
I will
A
tell
decorative
you.
plate with a picture of a fashionable person or people painted on it.
Okay.
I will tell you.
Your
that
dad. Okay, he's a
he change?
stylish.
I would say his style kind of stopped about the late '80s, but he's got an unusually large wardrobe.
Something like that.
And he does change outfits several times a day.
But it's more
he's-
out of madness than out of like a style sense.
Absolutely. Have you met my old man? He's clothes horse.
So this is a clothes horse that needs to be put down, is what you're saying.
Whoa,
This is a clothes horse that needs to be
whoa.
taken out back.
The
and-
second section is types of drying racks in the Wikipedia page.
facial hair.
I must applaud both of you for being able to grow the full amount of facial hair required to be a manly man.
Oh,
Oh.
come on, thanks,
I-
buddy.
While I can grow some facial hair, it's definitely on the level of average, spickly, unconnected chin fuzz, as opposed to the full male goatee, which I am
Looks like
striving
you,
for.
you dipped
It'll
your-
probably take me a couple years.
Looks like you dipped your chin in somebody's ass right there. The way you have it right now, it's a little bit light shadow. It looks like you.
Yes, I have.
Chin dusting.
I have definitely been snorting gunpowder for the last 20 hours
Wow.
to make it look as dusty as it does.
It does look dusty.
It is dusty. I
I'll
would
tell
say.
you that.
Yeah.
You've definitely got the dust going on, Joe. I will say of the of your. I last time I saw you, you had the chin strap just kind of around the jaw, but now I notice you're letting the.
Letting the full thing grow. And I will tell you that I've had the chin strap soul patch because it's not really been a goatee because I've never
yeah.
let the lip grow either. But, I decided it was time to just mess with a new aesthetic for myself. It has really nothing to do with the warmth of having a beard in the wintertime. And I trimmed it real short because it's never really grown like this before. It's growing very unevenly, so I'm kind of doing it in stages.
You do
I'll
have
let it
to
grow out and then trim it up, and I'm going to let this probably
that's what you
grow
do.
out.
Yeah, that's what you do. You let it. Ideally, if you have a hair trimmer, you get one of those guards on it that makes it a uniform length.
And that's what I did right here.
Yeah, because typically, I think that's how it goes for everybody. Certain spots grow a little bit faster or fuller than others do, and you just kind of have to monitor to keep the length uniform. But I will say, you mentioned the mustache and stuff. That is the single most transformative piece of facial hair, because truly, your face, I think, is changed, and not like you, but like anyone, like just a man, his face is changed more by growing or shaving a mustache than any other facial hair piece. I think it's just there's something about that what's a mustache slang? Some
stash,
carpet. What are they?
Lip fuzz.
Lip fuzz, upper lip. Fuzzy caterpillar or something.
I mean,
nose warmer.
I guess, but
Crumb catcher.
Yeah, crumb catcher. There we go.
Soup strainer.
Soup strainer. Thank you. That was one I was thinking of. But yeah, that I notice it. It's like that. You can. If I could have an entire beard except for the mustache, and I feel like my face would be like that'd be a noticeable change, but yet my whole face wouldn't be changed as much as if I had just a mustache compared to clean shaven.
Let me also put it this way: I still think it would be entirely different if you had everything shaved but the mustache. I think that would also dynamically change your face.
Exactly. And that's what I mean. Just that strip of hair is the most transformative. It has the largest effect on your overall face appearance.
And it also has multiple styles within itself to lend to the overall appearance.
This is true.
It does.
Get a little bit of that grease that they do once you grow it out a little bit.
Oh,
and
yeah.
twist it.
Wax
little
the ends
snidely
up.
whiplash going on.
I also like the people who do the handlebars or like the sideburns into the mustache. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Do either of you gentlemen know who Jackson Galaxy is by any chance?
Oh, the cat guy.
The cat guy. Thank you.
He
has the best facial hair I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is the sideburns into the mustache, isn't it?
But it's disconnected in some spots and it's reconnected. It's bonkers.
It's bizarre.
It is. I mean, but
he probably lets cats do it. Like they probably shave his face.
I mean, but he's also got the name Jackson Galaxy. With a name like that, you
can do whatever you want.
Anything you want,
except play in the NBA. Apparently, even though you'd think with a name like that you could
be out of this world, right?
Exactly. Space Jam, he could probably play in, but
he's a pilot.
Yes. I didn't know Dan Aykroyd was in this picture.
Whoa.
Yeah. I'm going to cut that out.
I would.
Nobody. Yeah.
I didn't catch the reference. Sorry.
That was Space Jam.
Yeah. But anyway, though, I am one for the last couple years. As soon as October hits and it starts to get cold, the decision to grow a beard is more a choice of me saying, okay, I don't feel like shaving anymore. So it's cold now, and like I've got at least like I've got pretty like fairer or more sensitive skin, and definitely like shaving when the temperature's cold is really, really unpleasant. It's just it gets dry and it's chapped and all this
stuff. Razor burn is more likely, but I will tell you, especially it's interesting for me because I almost find shaving to be more part of my routine than even showering. I've always enjoyed maintaining a very certain aesthetic with my facial hair. At first I started with just under the bottom lip and the chin, and then I let the chin strap finally grow in, and it's just kind of my evolving face aesthetic. And it's not so much I enjoy shaving. I straight razors. I don't even bother with electrical trimmers. Shaving cream, the whole 9 yards.
Oh yeah.
But,
in the summer I do too. I go clean shaven typically. It's just, but like I said, that's because for me, I know it really is. It's much more about comfort. I think. I mean, I wouldn't grow it if I couldn't. Like if it wasn't a full beard, I wouldn't still stop shaving. I would definitely make the choice to just be like, I'm going to clean myself up. But since I've been able to do it, that's when I'm like, it's cold. I don't feel like shaving anymore, and I just trim up the cheeks and like the under area until April, and then that's when it's like as soon as the weather starts getting warmer, it gets a little muggier or whatever. There comes a day in May, and it's around the same time every year, but I like have this really strong thought where I wake up and I'm just like, I cannot stand this thing one more, like it's just itchy, and I'm like, it's
one
gonna
thing
go.
I definitely noticed. I don't let anything under my neck or anything grow still, because I can't stand hair that grows under my chin like that. So.
Yeah, and you can see on me, I keep it quite trim.
Yeah.
And I do this probably once every 2 to 3 weeks, because even this little limited part, once it starts growing out, it starts poking out everywhere and looking very disheveled. And I personally just strike it away and start
More of
over.
an aesthetic thing for you as well, then, I would say.
And I will say too, there you do have to maintain. Like, there's no if you're going to grow
absolutely.
facial hair, there is a lot to it. I think if you want to maintain a good-looking beard, there's plenty of the guys that just do like the, hey, I'm letting it grow, and you can't stop me, and you
No
see
shave
that, and you're
November.
just like, okay.
The mountain's that way.
Right. Yeah, that thing is going off in all kinds of directions. But I think in the city, or if you have like a job or something that really might not be most open to facial hair stuff, you have to keep it more trim, and that means sometimes like shampooing and using the wax and whatnot, and there's a routine.
Just an interesting side note as we're thinking about it. Do either of you gentlemen ever get different colored hair in your beards?
Oh, yeah.
Like
Right.
I am very much a dark brown hair color with some red highlights here and there, but I get blonde hair in my goatee, especially
I get some blonde
hair.
in this, and I've noticed the last couple of years grays. I'm not a lot. I mean, there's certainly not, and I'd say it's more blondes, or colorless ones than gray.
Pigmentless,
but they're definitely there along the sideburns,
No
and some of
kidding.
them down like in the chin area. Oh yeah.
Oh man.
And Pat, we were talking about this earlier too. Yeah, I've got some on the. I've noticed some grays since I want to say like just after high school.
Wow,
kind of like
really?
around. Nothing too bad, as you guys can see. It's not like there's a stripe or a patch that's visible from like far away. But if you get
It's
up close, there's definitely strands here and there, and there's enough where like it catches the light and you can see them for sure.
I've got 3 that I've counted on my head of gray, but then in my chin I've got probably a good handful to
That are, like,
maybe
red,
almost
or?
a dozen that are red hairs, because I know that my mom's a redhead.
Yes, she is.
No, she's brown, but there's red genes in her lineage for sure. So I know I have it recessive in my genes.
I just think it's weird that we, as somebody, 99% of my body hair is dark. Even the hair on my chest and on my legs and all that, it's dark. But in my face, I get blonde.
It's a strange thing. Hair is kind of strange in general, though, when
Very
you just
much
think
so.
about it, like
Yeah,
how many
it's-
millions of follicles it takes, and so it's like of all those strands that I guess the chances, of 99% of your hair is darker colored. It's like there's got to be some
Anomalies.
wonky ass
Yeah,
little
I
strands that
agree.
are going to come through. They're mutated and fucked up
long
colors and stuff.
curly
Yeah,
and shit. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
I am not conforming to your colors.
I am who I am, and you can't doink. Ooh.
Pluck that shit right out.
And that's going to wrap it up for us here. Joe, Rue, thanks for joining me again.
My pleasure, sir.
Have a great holiday weekend.
Oh, you too, and your family as well.
And yours. Tell them I said hello.
I will.
Pat, you as well. Thanks again for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Tell your family as well. Happy holiday. Enjoy yourselves.
As always, and same to you and those you care about.
Thank you so much, both of you
That
guys.
was eloquent.
You guys are
I do what I can.
just so kind and full of the holiday spirit. It's practically bursting forth from your fertile mouths.
I get my messages straight from my nutsack. It's like a direct.
It's like a little
link.
oracle.
This
Yeah.
is the second brain, man.
That's kind of a nice little Christmas message, isn't
Sure.
it?
Yeah. Food for thought, if you will.
A little food for thought and holiday nuts and all that, all that good
cheer.
stuff. So all of you as well, we'd like to wish you a happy and safe holiday weekend. Enjoy the time with your families, and hopefully you'll be back again next week and listen to us again as well. This has been another broadcast of Alternative Improvised Radio. You can tweet us at Alt Improv Radio. I'm Don Kleppen, and thank you. What were you going to do?
I'm sorry. I was just going to be like, we wish all of you the best. All 12 of you.
Yeah. Oh
'Cause
no.
we have
Yeah.
12.
Right. Of course. But I mean, you could.
On Twitter,
Yeah. You
Twitter
could.
it's
Yeah.
11 followers, so
Yeah.
it's like all 12.
You could be little if you want. Yeah. You could definitely just be like, oh yeah.
All 12 of you.
Yeah, exactly. All 12 of you. So all of you, enjoy your holiday weekend. And as I said, you can always tweet us at Alt Improv Radio. We'd love to hear your suggestions for topics to talk about and just kind of touch base with you guys in general. So thanks again. Have a great holiday weekend, and we'll see you guys next year. Take it easy.